What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Submerged podcast with Camila and Benji. This is episode 5, and if you have not checked out episode 1, 2, 3, and 4, they are up and running on Spotify, Anchor, and YouTube.
Yes. Welcome back. This is episode number 5. I keep on looking in the mirror, and I keep on looking at you too. So it looks like you're still my daughter after this 5th episode, and the DNA test will prove that, by the way. Mm-hmm. And what we're trying to do here is have raw, refreshing, real conversation, sometimes explicit. We've warned you about that, but always kind of PG-13, and on all sorts of nonsense and themes. So we look forward to diving in these themes with you. So whether we're at the surface of them or really deep, we're going to try and keep you entertained in the process and entertain ourselves.
Yeah, and please remember to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube at Submerged Podcast TV. You need to add the TV at the end of that, or else some freak is going to show up that had a failed attempt. But yes, and follow us on Instagram too at Submerged Podcast. That is run by yours truly.
Wonderful. So this episode is one that was born from just a conversation that you and I had in the car listening to the Bee Gees. Right? Mm-hmm. And
actually, I brought it up, didn't I?
Well, we both.
No, I brought it up.
You brought it up, but then you set me on a course. Mm-hmm. So, maybe getting to know us a little better, but at the same time, looking at the past, we love to look at history. We love to look at odd things and try to understand the past, the present, and where we're going, and try to make sense of it all from a generational standpoint. Mm-hmm. Me being 46 already, celebrated that. You being 15 going on 16. And so we wanted to look at the juxtaposition of 1976, the year I was born, versus 2006, when you were born. Mm-hmm. And so what we found is some interesting facts. We found that things have changed a lot.
Yes.
But they really haven't.
Not really. Especially from my generation.
I think mostly the digital world has probably given us more info. Mm-hmm. But there was a lot of shit happening.
Yeah.
And as I dug deeper, at least into the year that I was born, it's a dragon year too. Mm-hmm. And so a little more aggressive, a little more confident, loves competition, wants to win. The Olympics were that year too in Montreal. Mm-hmm. But I found a very interesting period, which is the summer period, mm-hmm. where it went down. Oh. And I'll talk about that as we...
Is it a good or a bad down?
It's a mixture. Oh. It's just there was a lot of chemistry, and I asked my wife what the hell was going on with the planets at the time. So it looks like there's some similarities also to 2022 with Saturn square Uranus. I won't go into the other ones because I think that might be a little too complex for our crowds. We might have to come back and do an astrological episode. Yes. But essentially there was some fixed signs there, and there was a lot of energy, and I'll talk about that. And so the themes today, Camila, are going to be, what are we going to touch upon?
Touch upon economics, where the country or the world was at the time.
Socioeconomic, political, etc.
Pop culture, music, movies, fashion. Like, and we dug kind of deep for some odd news.
Lovely.
In these years.
Our most famous segment, I think. Yes. This is the 3rd time we're doing some odd news, and we're doing now historical odd news. And we're going to find out some nice things. So if you want to start us off, Camila, we are in 2006. Yes. That is the year that you are born. Yeah. And you are born in the beginning of summer. So you probably won't remember a lot of these things, so I'll have to maybe jog the memory of our audience. But what did you find out about 2006?
Well, economically, we were falling down from an economic boom, and it was a residential housing boom. So people were buying a bunch of houses, and then 2006 hit, and people stopped buying houses because there was a record debt for the amount of money people had to pay off because the government was printing too much money and giving too much money to people. So people had shit to take care of.
Yeah,
and
people were
they
getting
did not have time.
a lot of loans that they shouldn't have been getting, and it led to the crash eventually. In 2008, 2009. So that there's always precursors to that. So 2006 started showing those signs, is what you're telling me. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
What else did you find out, either socioeconomically, politically, or economically, that was going on?
Well, I didn't really find anything else politically. It wasn't an election year, but what's his name? Saddam
Hussein.
Yes. He was hanged.
He was hanged.
And the last, almost like, I think the day before the last day
December 30th.
of 2006. So that's really the only major political thing that was going on. There were other
events, but let's say that was a big one.
Nobody really knows anybody else other than this,
when we started doing the research, there was a lot of bits and bobs here and there, but that was a big one because of the Iraq invasion after September 11th, and then, yes, the hanging of Saddam Hussein and ushering was still where we still have troops there. We still are in Iraq. So nothing must have changed there.
Nope, definitely
still
not.
Problems in the Middle East.
Awesome.
But we won't go too heavy there. And so now, just to let you know, from 1976, our dragon year. So relatively, tumultuous year, I would say, mostly in the summer, and I'll talk about that. But what I found curious was inflation was close to 5.8%, getting closer to 6%. Here we are nowadays with an inflation, people can debate the numbers, but they say up till now about 7%. Ooh. And so we're in that situation where things were getting a little more costly, a little more, there was a little more fire and tension in the air.
Yes.
But at the same time, people were trying to live their lives and, be involved in the disco era and try to maybe forget about it on the dance floor.
Put on my bell bottoms and go to the discotheque.
Exactly. Let's talk about a few things that were going on in the world in 1976. Well, number one, your dad being from the Seychelles. Guess what happened? Seychelles becomes independent.
Yes.
Guess what time? You guessed it. Summer. Yeah, but I warned you.
Funny enough.
June 29th, we become independent.
Nice. From
the Brits, right? Second, it is the U.S. Bicentennial. We are celebrating 200 years of the U.S.'s Declaration of Independence. And so a lot of people, I think, forget how young
our country is.
This country is.
Yeah.
And how we were forged and where we're at, and we're still trying to figure it all out. We're pretty much like a petulant child and a cancer child at that, just like you.
We're like a chemistry experiment that was supposed to go wrong, but it went right, and we don't know what the frick was added to the experiment, but something went right, and we're doing good. I think.
Yep.
I think.
And then on the again going back to the international front, there were, guess what? In June, riots in Soweto, which ushered in the end of apartheid in South Africa, and that also played a role within the Olympics. So you're seeing here, this theme, this summer of
summer vibes.
Summer vibes. I'm going, holy shit, summer. On top of that, there was a tidal wave.
Oh yes.
After an earthquake in Philippines that killed 5,000 people. Guess when that happened? August 17th.
Oh, it's the summer.
And
that's nice.
Ebola declared itself on June 27th in Sudan, which was in the news after, maybe around the same time as 2006. I think George Clooney was running about. So between celebration of a nation, independence of mind, deaths due to natural occurring events. We're seeing a lot of things that we hear on the news every single day now.
Yes.
But except I don't think people, if they didn't read the newspaper, also were not curious about what was going on internationally,
people wouldn't know.
They wouldn't know that this was going on. So this is where I'm seeing just a lot of funky things that nobody wanted to talk about. By the way, the U.S. did lose its tallest building ranking.
Oh, okay.
Yep, the CN Tower in Toronto became the tallest building over the World Trade Center.
Oh, wow.
And that was in 1976 too. So I'm kind of liking this year because it had a lot going on, and we'll talk about more as we go through the music, pop culture, movie theme. So let's go there, Camila. Tell us about the music, pop culture world and movies of 2006.
Well, music, let me just say, our generation, like right now, at the age we're at, we're always listening to music from like, I think the year we were born. It's so iconic to our generation. Like we like hold it special place in our heart. Like if you go to a Sweet 16, you know they playing Crank That Soulja Boy, which was actually the most popular song in 2006. Crank That Soulja Boy. That dance is still people still do it, and I still do it, and I have no shame saying that I do that. And then Irreplaceable by Beyonce, of course, the lovely Miss Beyonce, was also number one in 2006.
And she's still around.
Yeah, she is still around. And fun fact.
Tell us.
On June 22nd, which is my birthday.
Your birthday, yes.
Hips Don't Lie was the number one ranking song by Shakira, which is a classic. It was a classic.
So the funny story is in 2006, she came to Boston. Mm-hmm. I think it was in the fall. You were, was it the fall? Was it the year after? I think you were just around between 4 to 6 months.
Yeah.
I'd like to say, and we went to see her at what is now the TD Bank Center.
That's funny.
Garden. And she did that song, and we left you with friends who, one was a pediatrician, the other one was an engineer, and they have 3 kids of their own. Mm-hmm. But the best part, you were screaming the whole fucking time. And then when we went to pick you up, forget about the hips don't lie. I think your pamper doesn't lie. It was like inflated like a balloon. And it wasn't, thank God it was not caca. It was regular pee-pee. But I was like, you guys didn't change her. They're like, she screamed so much, we had to keep her on our chest. It was cute, but at the same time, like, good luck being parents, but they're wonderful parents, and the kids turned out great.
Yes.
So hips don't lie. Good story there with Shakira. And, you know, she's kind of faded a little bit, but she's had some success with reggaeton. She's still around. So since 2006.
She married that husband.
Yeah.
She married that husband that was like 9 years younger. She's doing good. She went deep on that one.
She went deep on that one. She even did a video with him, and, you know, she
made a song about him.
She's obsessed with him, actually. I think she's scary to me.
He's obsessed with himself. You should see his Instagram. It's just selfies of himself. It's really like, it's actually worrisome. Like, is he okay?
Vein on vein. I like it.
Is she holding him hostage? Like, sometimes I wonder.
I think so too. Instagram, he's like, voy a salir con las chicas. He's like, I'm gonna go out with with my mates to go for a drink. I bet you she follows him behind the guy. She's like, la, 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 la. But yeah, enough with Shakira. Let's move on. What else?
Well, for movies, Mission Impossible 2 was very popular in 2006, and the iconic High School Musical came out in 2006, which is literally, if you haven't watched that movie, you're a Satanist. Like, that movie is so iconic to my generation.
Introduction to Zac Efron
and Vanessa Hudgens. And they ended up dating for like 3 years after that, and that was a huge couple for the 2000s.
Is that a Disney movie? Or
it's a Disney movie. Yeah, but
and that became massive.
That was massive. And Cars is a really, I didn't know that came out in 2006. I thought it came out like in 2014, but
no,
you know, it came out in 2006, and that's also a really like
going
popular...
to the first one, the Mission Impossible. Here we are. I'm like, since the, you know, number 2. I mean, number 1 was before, obviously, but we've had now 4, 5.
5. We went to go watch 5. I think 3 years ago, something like that.
And it's like what's interesting, here we are, many years later.
He's like in his 60s and still running after cars.
He's like almost in his 60s. He's just running. He's like breaking his knee, breaking his elbow. They have to stop shooting, and the scenes are just getting more and more intense. Now, listen, do I love it?
It's like the same plot for every movie, though. Yeah. Like, you know, like, but
you're just waiting. You're like, here we go. Just run, please.
Yeah, for real. Like you know what's gonna happen in the movie. He just gets progressively older and wrinklier as the movies go on. You know. He's
approaching that Cobra Kai level. I think he needs to join that group. And so, any more before I share my pop culture?
Well, there is the movie Happy Feet, which isn't as popular, but I have definitely made some references to Happy Feet. It's about the penguins, the little penguin, but I don't remember the movie because I haven't watched it in so long. But that's one of my last movies I have written down.
So it seems that glossy era, it looks like happy-go-lucky, people having fun.
The music,
they don't know an economic crash is coming, but that's always people are oblivious. Yeah. They're trying to buy houses and they just want to be entertained. Mm-hmm. In 1976, it was kind of a mixed bag. So I think, you know, from the drug perspective, here are the artists who've kind of we're you know many years past the hippie era, but you know still feeling that vibe per the clothes, the big hair, the bell bottoms. But cocaine is starting to creep in big time.
Oh, yes.
You know, in the disco era, Studio 54, you're talking about even artists like Barbra Streisand, who are very safe. She had to bail out her bandmates due to cocaine. That's just one.
Okay.
For you, another one. Summer, June 18th, ABBA performs Dancing Queen for the first time on Swedish TV.
I love that song.
Of course, and I know you love these very performative Queen, ABBA. You love, also
Queen.
The
Queen
movie.
Is my favorite band.
Correct. And so I thought that was a nice one for you. The other one that we share in common is the Bee Gees. And even though 1975 to 1979 we're deep in the disco era, in 76 we got You Should Be Dancing coming out, which you absolutely love. So some great tunes, disco era. A nice little thing. Elton John comes out as bisexual on September 8th.
Wow.
Now listen.
The ending of a summer.
The end of
exactly. He just ended it with a bang. He's like, I'm actually gay,
he's like, listen,
too.
The end of apartheid is coming. You guys had the Olympics. The U.S. celebrated its bicentennial. Seychelles is independent. Holla. He goes, by the way, guys,
I'm also gay.
I'm also gay. But that was what was interesting about him, you know, as an artist coming out as bisexual and not straight gay. It was almost like that. It had to be that anti-chamber or gateway to announcing that you were proper gay.
Yeah.
And so that lasted even into the 90s in our generation, where we had a lot of kids in high school and university. They would first always come out and say, well, I'm bisexual. And it was tough because, as I said, whatever was going on internally or with their families or the whatever countries or states they were from in the US, you know, everybody was different. So, but at least that's the first path. On your side, we found out in 2006 that one of the key members of NSYNC, Lance Bass,
but
he came out as gay.
He came out as gay.
Yeah. So at least there was a progress there of people being themselves. So fantastic. There's one that I wanted to bring up is I recently, and I don't know if you saw the documentary on Tina Turner.
I haven't.
Yeah. So there's a documentary that I highly suggest that everybody watch on HBO. Which is about Tina Turner and her life. And so guess what? On July 27th, she files for divorce from Ike Turner. Mm-hmm. So there's been a lot of jokes. There's also been a lot of hip-hop folks that talk about it. It's a known fact, and the documentary highlights it. She was raped. She was beaten. She was abused.
By him?
She stayed in this relationship for a very long time. But she has such a fiery spirit to her and a survival spirit that when she files that divorce, I mean, she's gone through some heavy shit.
Right.
And so that was kind of like her liberation from all that. And I'm glad that it happened in the summer of 1976. Fantastic, because they'd been together, I think, since the late 50s. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So just some interesting things there. So you talked about movies. Are there any other movies you want to highlight? I've got some from 1976.
No, go ahead.
Okay, no worries. So everybody's gonna remember. Hopefully, the older folks will remember Taxi Driver with Robert De Niro.
I feel like I've seen that.
Make My Day. You know, a very popular, taxi driver who wants to protect this girl, have her under her wing, but he goes slightly nuts at the end.
Oh,
so
okay.
yeah. Also, a good field story that has really led to, even throughout the years, to different sequels, as well as a movie star, Rocky. The first Rocky comes out with Sylvester Stallone.
In 1976?
1976, yes, exactly.
That was the 80s.
And then you have a movie that was remade, A Star is Born. You know the one with Lady Gaga.
Oh, bro. I didn't know that.
And Bradley Cooper. So The Star is Born was 1976. In terms of horror, you have Steven Spielberg with Carrie. And then you have one introducing the horror / religious theme, The Omen, right? You'll probably have to see these movies. But there's one that I want to bring up that that might have a link to episode 4, where we reviewed movies and looked at Tarantino movies. This one's lovely. It's called Black Shampoo. So there was a movie in 1975 called Shampoo, celebrating the hippie era. It was kind of a musical. This one was called Black Shampoo, possibly Sex at the Salon. So this is a blaxploitation movie. So a lot of the references that Tarantino has is also around these movies. There's the movie you haven't seen. It's called Jackie Brown, and it plays on that theme, like the big bad mama, the big bad black man who's going to save and fight the mob. So in this case, this guy, he works at a salon. He cuts hair so good, but at the same time, he's a loving machine. So people come to his salon to have sex. So
my God.
He is a fuck machine and a killing machine, and who has to become a killing machine because he has to protect the receptionist because the mob is coming after his receptionist.
Bro, what?
I'm telling you, the poster. I think I might put that on the thing because the poster is just absolutely fab. So Black Shampoo. We're gonna have to find it and watch it together. So now, in terms of the theme of the digital world versus the real world, you were born into the digital world, I like to call it. What did you find out about 2006 that was going on in that digital world or social media world?
Yes. Well, first off, Facebook became available to anybody over the age of 13. So I guess that was like the first official social media for the kids in like high school in 2006. And Twitter
because it was only available to college students.
Kids, yes.
So and by the way, the way that you're saying is that anybody over 13 thinking that like young teenagers like you would jump on the bandwagon, right?
Oh, yeah.
But guess what happened? Then everybody and their mother, even my own mother, my aunts, now
the parents are on Facebook. And,
is Facebook, as they say in French, vieux jeu? Is it old game now for you, for your generation?
Nobody's on Facebook. Okay, I'm gonna expose our generation, but the girls.
Be nice.
No. The girls in my generation, we go on Facebook. Like if we like a boy, we'll go to his mom's Facebook. That's where you go to find pictures of him. If he don't got nothing on his Instagram, you resort to Facebook. Girls always got a Facebook app on their phone. They don't use it. They don't post.
Social media.
They don't post. But we going to look at his mama. We finna see if he has good pictures. Like that. That's what we use Facebook for.
You use Facebook for the boys that you find are little snack cakes or bays, but their parents do not allow them to have an account,
or they don't have any pictures of themselves on their own social media.
Got it.
Or it's just like really bad pictures, and like your friend's like, what does he look like? And it's just a really bad picture that he has on his Instagram. You're like, you know what, we finna resort to the mama Facebook and see if she got something better, because you gotta help me out here. Like I can't look like I have bad taste, And then, Twitter was launched. So the first tweet was released in 2006.
The first tweet launched in 2006. And that's massive because
Twitter's a huge part of our culture. Like now, kids like nowadays, like will make comments on stuff like scandals, always on Twitter. So,
it's become the, platform for politicians. It's become a platform for hip-hop artists, for artists in general. I think while Instagram promotes obviously the pictures and the photos, then Twitter then allows you also to rant, but then also it has opened up the doors for all sorts of nonsense, right?
Oh my God.
All sorts of fucking craziness.
I just so many, like, people make a bunch of memes on Twitter. There's a bunch of hate comments. If there's a social media scandal, you go to Twitter. Like, social media is like celebrities won't talk crap about each other in person anymore. It's over Twitter. Like,
It's over Twitter.
They'll make comments. They'll be like, "He's a bitch," and then they'll be like, "Oh my God, you did not just say that," and then they'll just roast them.
Unfortunately,
more of like
because of the amount of characters I allowed, that it really doesn't give you a platform for a really intelligent debate. So sometimes, unfortunately, it can veer off the wrong the wrong road.
Yeah.
So you bringing that up, what's interesting is I found out, as you know, we're 30 years apart, but people say 20 years for a generation. But things, as we know in life, they don't always happen in a click, right? There needs to be a buildup. That cargo plane needs to be full before it can take off, right? So in 1976, IBM has the first laser printer that comes out.
Oh, okay.
In November of 26, Microsoft is officially registered as a company in New Mexico.
Hello?
And also in 1976, Apple, the company,
Our friend.
is formed. So here we are, fucking Andy gibbing it on the dance floor with cocaine up my nose and having a good time and trying to forget that this summer there was a tidal wave in the Philippines. But these companies are being formed quietly in their basements.
And they kind of influence the 2006 generation, because then that brings in the whole social
and
media.
And they became
with the
powerhouses
cell phones.
and pretty much completely inescapable forces of the 2000s, right? And even now, it's unfathomable to think about not having an Apple store right anywhere else, or me not using Microsoft at work, whether that be Outlook, Excel, all those things that I got introduced to at when I was 18 in 1994, and then just became household items. And even now we have Microsoft programs on this laptop where we're
filming.
Exactly, we're taping.
Yeah.
The other interesting part on the business side and part of that fast world, on January 1976, the Concorde takes flight. So you don't remember because unfortunately they stopped production of it and there was a major accident. I think it happened in Paris. But the Concorde allowed kind of the promise of supersonic travel. So instead you crossed the Atlantic, from New York when we went to Abu Dhabi, right?
Yes.
But it's about a 6 hour to 6 hour and a half flight from the East Coast, depending where you're at, to, let's say, London, right? Or Paris. The Concorde did it in 3 hours and a half. Now, apparently, it's obviously tighter seating per my uncle, because he went on it, and not the most comfortable seat, for somebody who's a bit larger. But you could be in Europe in 3 hours and a half, almost like taking a train from Boston to New York, or driving from here to Miami. So imagine that crossing borders. So there was a lot of promise. But then what they did was they sacrificed the speed for bigger planes like the one we went on too, massive. And now I'm seeing that the planes are also starting to get maybe a little
smaller,
back to speed, back to material. So interesting that we were already there.
And
why did we stop it?
back.
Now we're going back. And that's always a nice mix. So obviously there's a lot of things that are going on in 1976. I just wanted to make one slight digression on the Olympics. It was in Montreal, and your dad has actually swam there on his way to qualifying for the Olympics. I had a swim meet there in Montreal at the park.
There we go.
And there was a shout out to a gentleman who's in his 60s now, a swimmer named John Neighbor, and he won 4 gold medals in the Montreal Olympics. He was a backstroker, so near and dear to my heart, and he went 55.49 and in the 100 back, and it went 1:59, so that he was the first guy to go under 2 minutes in the 200 back, and his records lasted 7 years.
Wow.
So that was impressive, and that's probably with 0 underwaters.
Yeah, probably.
Probably just with a regular
Horrible
Speedo and hair coming out of his balls, and just like a mustache, just like, he's like, he just went to the disco the night before, and
now
he
he's
goes
here.
and throws down a 55.
Yeah.
And then here we are in the Kardashian era. Guess who won a gold medal in the decathlon in 1976 in Montreal?
I don't know.
Bruce Jenner.
Are you?
Yes.
Bruh.
Now Caitlyn Jenner.
Oh. Yes.
So things have changed, or maybe they have not. Right? A lot. Yeah, exactly.
Well, she was hustling in 1976, but now she hustling for Instagram. So,
exactly.
you still the
She's
hustle.
on Facebook, apparently.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
exactly.
Definitely.
So, going to conclude today, we'll talk about odd news. So, what is your odd news? What did you find out that you found either cute, interesting, funny in 2006, Camila?
Okay, well, I have two bits of odd news for y'all today because I like the other story. It's kind of funny. To start off with the funny, Eminem created an ad campaign for...
Not the rapper, the candy.
The candy, yes. Created an ad campaign to give someone 2 million dark chocolate M&Ms to the person who returned this painting that was stolen from Norway in 2004 called The Scream.
Very popular painting.
And when they came out with this ad campaign, that painting was back in displays literally in 2 days. That person wanted them dark chocolate M&Ms, bro. Like,
So
2 days later, that shit was back in the museum, and they was gobbling on some dark chocolate M&Ms. I just found that so funny.
Did we find out if how was the chocolate delivered?
I have no
Was
clue.
it room temperature?
I don't know. But then they got the dark chocolate M&Ms.
And also, did they say, listen, you can return the painting at 1 a.m. when nobody's looking? I'm just curious
It was returned
how this exchange happened.
It was returned to the Norwegian police. And it was an anonymous. They didn't want to say who.
So they stuck by their promise. Nobody was arrested. The Scream was returned. You can still see it in Norway, I guess.
I think so.
And the other person has died of diabetes.
And they are having massive insulin issues due to these freaking dark chocolate M&Ms, which probably, honestly, in comparison to today, those dark chocolate M&Ms were probably better than what they are now, like less chemicals and stuff, you know?
So massive embarrassment from the security breach.
Massive obesity
covered by a chocolate shell
sustained
and shitty chocolate at that. I can't imagine eating 2 million M&Ms.
Yeah,
Jesus
so
Christ.
yeah, and then
I like that one.
Yeah, and then my second news is Napoleon. He signed the Louisiana Purchase in his bathtub in his little palace, and in 2006, an American hotelier bought the tub for guests to bathe in it, I guess. So a little historical element there, but a little bit funny. But you can go to this hotel in Louisiana, in New Orleans, and you could go bathe in Napoleon's bathtub, I guess, where major shit went down for U.S. history.
Well, yes, and major shit in the sense that it was an absolute raw deal for the French, and it was an absolute steal for the U.S. The French had Nouvelle-Orléans, which became New Orleans, obviously. And the only thing they kept was a bunch of like guys who are stuck in the bayou who speak this Cajun French, like and they eat frogs and stuff and crab. No, but the thing is that if you look historically, a lot of people don't know that it was under the French rule, and
how do people not know that?
We sold it for fucking pennies. But interesting,
yeah.
and I like your stories. So we'll conclude today's podcast with my odd news. Guess what? When did my odd news happen? Could you have a wild guess?
Last summer.
So in June 28th, 1976, Europe was going through a heat wave. But especially it affected the UK, where temperatures were around 36 Celsius. For my American crowd out there, that is 96, 97 Fahrenheit. Now listen, to you living in Florida,
it's not bad.
You're going to say that's not bad, but let me explain.
We have AC.
When you don't have AC, when your train service is called the Underground for a reason, because you're going deep, you have to take 2 escalators to like, am I going to make it out of this inferno? I was there. I was in London, I think in 2008 when it was just 80. I mean, 80 Fahrenheit, right? And the smell was funky.
Ew.
You felt like you were like asphyxiating. It was bad.
Okay.
And so I can only imagine what 96, 97 must feel like. And the pictures of people are like crowding the beaches in Brighton. They're at Hyde Park in London, just making love to that serpentine. It was insane. You know, a lot of white bodies, a lot of them.
Right.
You know.
Which is expected.
Which is expected, you know. Hopefully, and I don't think they used any cream that day.
Probably not.
And so, 45 days of no rain, massive drought, especially affected the southern and eastern coast. But this is where I love this piece. There was an invasion of ladybugs. Over 23 billion, I think close to 24 billion ladybugs
Okay.
invaded the UK and especially these parts. And so
Good summer.
yeah, and apparently there's 46 species of ladybugs, but this one was the particular harlequin one. So we're talking about like the Joker's girlfriend ladybug. Yeah, they're showing us like, what are you guys doing? So watch the movie. It's just highly annoying. And what do you think happens when your friends, you encounter a ladybug? What's going to be your first reaction, Camila?
It's like, oh, it's so cute.
Exactly.
And you grab the little ladybug, you're like, make a wish. And
Make
then
a
you're
wish,
like,
you blow on it, you
blow
want to
on
see it
it,
flow out.
and
If
you're
you're
like,
lucky
oh my
enough, you get it on your Instagram or Facebook story for the old people.
Yep.
And then you see those wings flutter.
And it's like you're gonna have good luck, which never freaking happens. But it's just it's good to believe in it.
Correct. But this was the twisted part. There were reports of bites from ladybugs because they were looking for, they left France. I think they tried to invade the UK. They were looking for some moisture, but the rivers are dried up. It's a fucking mess. There's a drought. So they started biting humans because the humans were actually sweating. So you got these pasty white people sweating.
Yeah.
They're also buying up ice cream like there's no tomorrow. We're talking about lickety pops and like a vanilla ice cream up the wazoo across the coast, and these ladybugs are going deep and biting these people. And we've warned you before. If people think animals are cute, there's a reason why they're animals. They can turn on you at any time. Stay away from ladybugs. No, take pictures of them. But if you see a swarm of them coming at you,
walk away, bro.
If there's an invasion, I think there's a reason to be weary, right? I'd be worried.
Yeah.
I can just imagine, he's like, look, Daddy, the ladybugs are coming. He's like, Sharon, grab the children. You know, what do you get away. They're going to come after you.
Like, I bollocks, he's baiting me.
Drop that strawberry natural pop, whatever you're into, banana sickle.
Drop the Dippin' Dots. We gotta go inside.
I'm like, I want to see, that guy with the freaking clown / ice cream truck just speeding like ladybugs like following. So by the way, they said, could this happen again? They said yes. They were worried in 2003 because the temperatures did reach 38 Celsius or closer to 100.
Yeah.
So, but again, with this odd news and going back to trying to understand 1976, 2006, and now, this probably wasn't on Twitter. This was probably in the UK news. Maybe they talked about it. Maybe it made the 4th, 5th page somewhere in an international, in La Gazzetta dello Sport, in Italy. Like, ladybug. But it wasn't a big deal.
Right.
And so people talk about climate change and throw out, oh my God, it's so bad. I'm like, well, apparently in 1976, it was fucking worse.
Yeah.
So let's just say that seasons happen. Shit happens with nature. It tends to be right.
Yes.
And if ladybugs were coming to invade, it's because, hey, I'm looking for some moisture. Don't hate them.
Right.
But obviously protect yourself.
Please save
Protect
yourself
your
from
health.
them.
So that's it. We've reached the end of this podcast, that juxtaposition of 2 years, the year I was born, the year you were born. A lot of similarities, some funky stuff. The low-rise jeans, or what I used to call the clitsters. I forgot to make that one. That comment, I remember Pink wearing those, and be like, Jesus Christ, can it get lower?
Mom still has some.
And Mom has some clitsters.
And I wear them to school.
But listen, you want to wear those? Fantastic. Bring back that mode. There was also if we're going to combine and end on the note, there was also bell-bottom clitsters.
Yes, that was the trend. The boot cut. They're called boot cut.
Boot cut, yeah.
Boot cut
Bell-bottom
low-rise.
clitsters.
Yeah.
So, obviously I'm making a joke. They were quite sexy on certain people. It wasn't made for every single body type. Again, choose the fashion that works for you.
Right.
So we'll conclude on that. Camila, where can people check us out? Where can people subscribe, like us, hit us up?
Yeah, you can follow us on Instagram at Submerge Podcast and go subscribe and turn on your post notifications on YouTube at Submerge Podcast TV. Emphasis on the TV at the end.
Submerge Podcast TV on YouTube. And we talking about TV, sorry to interrupt, but we will be working on the visual element. Yes. So we'll be adding that so you can see us soon as we ramble on. You can see how
pretty I am. No, sorry.
Calm down. And that's it. So we'll bid everybody farewell. Good night, good evening, good morning, wherever you're at. And we look forward to the next episode.
Peace.
Cheese.